All right, good morning and welcome to today's stock market update for Wednesday, December 1st. It is already December, 30 more days for trading, and boy, the markets continue their roller coaster ride. And we'll talk about what's happening, what happened yesterday, and what is happening today, what to look out for. But if this is your first time here, hi, I'm Marcus Heidkotter. I'm a professional trader, and every morning we sift through a mountain of news websites, newsletters, and reports, and then we take the most important news and go live here to share with you what you need to know as you head into your trading day. Now, also, if this is your first time here, I know it can be overwhelming, so don't worry. We have a special video just for you that I will link in the description, and that's a great place to get started. And joining me is my head coach, Mark Hodge, who has 24 years of trading experience, and together we have helped thousands of regular people understand how to trade these crazy markets and actually make money way beyond what your typical financial advisor would do. So, with that said, let's take a look at what the markets did yesterday. Mark, good morning. What do you think about that here? There was definitely some action.
There was. Good morning, Marcus. And wow, what a day yesterday. I mean, stocks getting hammered, the major indices down big. We could take a look at the S&P. You have the Dow up, right?
Yeah, I
So
have the
we
Dow
can
up. Let
start
me
there.
bring the S&P up. So
Okay.
here we go.
So S&P hardest hit, down almost 2% yesterday. And looking at that chart, we see that, slowly unraveling from these record highs and these big dips, a little bit of a bounce, and then another big dip. So making new lows, at least compared to what we've seen recently, and a big sell off. And I think it, honestly, Marcus, I think it could have been worse yesterday. I'm surprised it wasn't.
I agree. I agree. Because, I mean, yesterday, on Monday, it was the new virus mutation, right? The Omicron mutation. And then on Tuesday, as we can see here, we bounced back a little bit. But then yesterday, well, what do you know? It was Fed Chair Jerome Powell who sent the markets lower yesterday. Let's talk about this. So he was speaking in front of the Senate Banking Committee, and everybody thought, oh, he'll talk a little bit about the Omicron mutation, how it will affect the markets and how it will affect the economy. But no, I mean, he fooled everybody, and he just thought, I'd choose a different topic.
Exactly. And so this recent dip, going back to last Friday, the short trading session after Thanksgiving, that was all tied to the uncertainty of the Omicron variant, right? And so COVID, how that will impact the markets, shutting down borders, all of that.
Right.
But in one sentence, Fed Chair Powell basically said the Fed is no longer worried about coronavirus. It's all about inflation. That's a big deal.
Here we are back, the I word, inflation. Yes, and he actually said, you know what, this transitory thing that he has been touting for months, that, oh, inflation is transitory. Yesterday, suddenly he says, you know what, I think we should retire this word. and he said, inflation is there, it's there to stay. And he also said, we got to do something about it. And
Yeah.
this is why the markets kind of went a little bit haywire yesterday. Because did you see what he said?
Yeah, he said it is a quote, it is appropriate, I think, for us to discuss at our next meeting, which is in a couple of weeks, whether it will be appropriate to wrap up our purchases a few months earlier, and that tapering right now is currently scheduled to end in mid 2022. But now they're talking about maybe double the pace. At least that's what Goldman Sachs thinks.
Yeah.
Another quote directly from Powell is, at this point, the economy is very strong and inflationary pressures are higher, and it is therefore appropriate, in my view, to consider wrapping up the taper of our asset purchases. So he's basically saying the economy is strong, inflation is a bigger deal, right? And this dates me, but back in the Alan Greenspan days, he said the words irrational exuberance and markets went nuts. So I'm surprised. It could have been worse yesterday. It definitely
Yeah,
could have been worse.
because let's take a look at this. So traders reacted promptly to this, thinking, okay, when does the Fed raise interest rates? And we know that a few months ago, just 2 or 3 months ago, they said, oh, we're going to raise interest rates in 2023. But then they started saying, well, maybe we do it towards the end of 2022. And let's take a look at the CME Group Fed Watch tool here right now. So obviously, nobody is expecting that they are raising interest rates in the next meeting, which is coming up in a couple of weeks from now. Not many are betting on that something is happening in January or in March. But let's take a look at this. In May, now we almost have we pretty much have a 50-50 chance
Yeah.
that, or expectation here, that the Fed might raise interest rates. And I mean, this is as early as May 4th, 2022, way earlier than everybody thought. And this were, as you said, I mean, it could have been worse because this came kind of out of the left field. Nobody expected Powell to talk about that yesterday. So surprise, surprise.
And he uses his words carefully, and I think that he could have said the same thing in a more cautious way. I think he was letting traders know that this is happening.
Oh yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so this is why. Well, we already talked about this. Raising interest rates means, especially for growth stocks, that money will be more expensive, and therefore there's a little bit this flight to safety back into value stocks. And this is where yesterday, the S&P and also the Nasdaq got hammered yesterday. But we also had some
Yeah,
economic news yesterday, right?
we did. We did. We could go ahead and take a look at the economic calendar, and consumer confidence sinks to a new low.
Yeah, I mean, this was also a little bit surprising. I mean, with everything that we have going on right now, the Omicron virus or variant, with Powell talking about inflation and raising interest rates, I mean, it's getting a little bit in the background, but it was definitely, a 9 month low that we saw here, right? So, yeah,
Yep.
according to Market Watch.
Yeah, and so interesting day yesterday. I mean, even crude oil down big. I think we need to take a look at crude oil markets because nasty November. So today, first trading day of December. Yesterday we wrapped up the month of November. Yesterday, crude oil was down 5.4%, and it was down 20.8% for the month of November. That's the worst month since March 2020 when COVID was in full bloom.
Yeah, I mean, huge decline, and everybody was concerned about rising oil prices. And we know that President Biden talked to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and so there were all these things. What do we do to actually, lower oil prices? Well, all we needed to do is basically talk about a new variant, and then right
Yeah.
that there's no more, or that there's not much demand, or the demand is declining here, and this is what we saw. Yeah, huge, huge drop for crude oil here. All right, and then also, what do you know? The tail end of earnings. There's still some companies reporting earnings. I think it's the last 4 or 5 companies reporting earnings here, right? So let's take a look at some of those and what happened.
Yeah, Salesforce, CRM, the ticker. So shares of this software giant down almost 5% pre-market. Now they issued fourth quarter earnings guidance below expectations, and this is the big deal. Next year revenue guidance also missed estimates, so they're basically saying, hey, things aren't going to be as good as analysts expected anyway. And this is really the big concern here because they actually reported better than expected earnings and revenue for last quarter. It was the guidance right now that has investors worried.
Because I mean, yeah, it's cool to know how they did last quarter, but everybody wants to know how will they do in 2022 in this new environment. And this is where we saw what's happening. So down almost 5% this morning. We also had Box reporting earnings, right?
Yeah, and they have a big jump, up 10% pre-market. So real strong move higher. Um, they reported earnings of 22 cents a share, which was a penny better than expected. On revenue of 224 million, 218 and a half was expected. But their fourth quarter and full year revenue and earnings, they all topped estimate. So people are liking that.
Yeah. All right. Who else did we have? Hewlett Packard Enterprise, HPE.
HP, HP Enterprise. So they are down. Oh, not too bad. They were down. It looked like they were down about 8% pre-market or yesterday
Yeah.
after the bell. Down about 2.5%. They missed last quarter's revenue estimates. Reported 7.35 billion, which 7.38 billion was expected, and earnings were slightly higher, up 4 cents better than expected. So uh, doing a little better this morning.
All right. Then this morning, news for Merck. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, this one's interesting. So we both actually sold puts at the 72 strike on this one. Just historically, the 70-72 range, super, super strong for Merck. And we were hoping that would hold if it did dip. So full disclosure there. But at one point, Merck led the S&P 500 with a gain of about 4% after hours, but now just about a 0.5% in pre-market trading. So they had their COVID treatment pill receiving approval from the FDA. It was a narrow margin, though, a narrow beat there. So 13 voted in favor, 10 against. And one of the concerns was they had some, I think it was like a 50% efficacy for, treatment and helping a month ago. And that dropped to 30% last Friday. And so there was some concerns about that and a few other things. It now needs to get full or final authorization from the FDA and also the CDC before it becomes approved on a emergency basis. But that usually happens once it's approved by the panel.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at some pre-market action here. If you're looking at the futures market, I mean, this is looking pretty good here going into the
Yeah.
opening. I mean, huge bounce back here this morning. If you look at the E-mini S&P up 1.25%, the E-mini Nasdaq up 1.3%, the E-mini Dow up almost 1%. So it seems that we have a strong opening again. So yeah, this roller coaster ride seems to continue.
It really is. Looks like traders are taking the dips as buying opportunities. And, I think that the Omicron's still a wild card. We have jobs on Friday. But the Fed, I don't know how much of a wild card that is right now.
Yeah,
Seems
and
like
we
traders are
talked
saying,
about it.
oh, well.
We talked about it on Monday. I mean, traders are paying attention to the 50-day moving average, right? And yesterday we came awfully close in the S&P to touching the 50-day moving average. Looking at the Dow, we already went through this. I mean, Dow is right now trading below the 50-day moving average. And the Nasdaq also getting a little bit closer here. So that's definitely something that traders will pay attention to as, as we're heading into December, the last trading day of the month here.
Yeah, and Fed Chair Powell is testifying before the House Financial Services Committee today. So there is that testimony. Maybe he'll stir the pot a little bit more. We'll see. I don't think he will, but who
All right.
knows?
Hey, I have two more things for you. Did you see that Dr. Oz is now running for Senate?
I did not.
So Dr. Oz is now running for Senate in Pennsylvania. Of course, this has zero effect on the markets. I just thought it was interesting. And then, I mean, Elon Musk. I mean, did you see that? So yesterday they introduced the company's latest product, a $50 whistle inspired by the Cybertruck, and it already sold out. So this is
Oh
just,
my gosh.
there we go. And he actually made fun of it, and he said, well, you know what? Blow the whistle on Tesla. Don't waste your money on that silly Apple cloth. Buy the whistle instead. You remember the the Apple
Yeah.
cloth that we talked about a little bit, the polishing cloth from Apple here for $19, which is really just a piece of cloth for $19. Well, he's selling Cybertruck whistles, and they've been sold out,
Wow.
and they're already available. And yes, for those of you who can see, this here is the cloth. Really hard to see for $19. Anyhow, okay, we got to get ready for trading. It's been a great week for trading. I mean, we have been really active, especially with the wheel strategy. So there's a lot going on, selling puts, selling calls. And if you would like to learn more about this strategy and how we trade these crazy markets, take a look at the video in the description, and we'll see you in the next video, and we'll see you in tomorrow's stock market update.
Happy trading, everybody.